Alright, hold up, stop. You just clicked on this video. You may notice how long it is. Stay. Just stay for a few seconds and hear me out real quick before you quickly jump to a 5-minute guide video expecting the same results. Right? Got your attention? Good. Hi, my name's Professor Scalar. Welcome to this probably hour-long video at this point. Yeah, this is a basic guide video to GTFO of teaching you what you need to know. And yes, I know it's almost an hour long, maybe it's a little bit more than an hour long, but I think it's necessary. This is a very difficult game and there's no tutorial, there's no basic introduction that teaches you how to play. It's purely up to other people to teach. And after watching some guide videos and after pretending to be a new player and just playing with people who claim they're really good at teaching people, I have to say I'm a little bit disappointed. I'm not trying to start beef, and I'm not trying to say other people are bad at teaching this game. By all means, I don't think I'm great at teaching it either. But a lot of people just tell people how stuff works, but don't explain why. They tell you, just sneak up to an enemy and kill it with melee, and that's it. They don't explain why it works or what could go wrong if you just do that without checking your surroundings. This video is to teach you the basics of everything you're going to need to know for every single level and teach you how to get better at this game. This will not talk about advanced details. This is going to be basic stuff. And yet there's a lot of basic stuff to teach. So here is basically timestamps of every major point in the video. If you just want to watch specific things, jump to these points. I honestly don't expect anybody to watch this entire video in one setting. I am making this though so people have a video to go to where if they pretty much have any questions, I am hoping that this video answers almost all of them. Obviously there won't be stuff, but I will make another video in the future that talks about more advanced stuff. But this is not going to be rundown specific guides or tips. These are tips that will affect every single rundown. So no matter how old this video gets, hopefully it will stay relevant unless if they change a bunch of actual mechanics in game. But that's all I have to say. So I hope you do enjoy this video. I know there's a lot to it, but I think it's very important. And if you do want to get better at this game, I do think it's worth your time to listen and watch it through. But that's enough about my rambling. I'll let my past self get on with the video. So do enjoy. Hello everybody, my name is Professor Scalar and welcome to everything you need to know to GTFO. This game is a very difficult game and it's meant to be played with multiple people, but it doesn't really teach you how to play it. There's no tutorial for this game, so it's really up to people either watching videos, playing by themselves and just figuring it out as they go, or playing with people who know what they're doing and have them teach it to them. But seeing how you're here right now means you've probably taken the video option to learn how to play this game. So I'm going to do my best to teach you all of the basics of what you need to know. This is probably going to be a 3-part video, or 3 separate videos. This one is just going to be me talking about the basics and what you need to learn to get started playing this game. I'm not going to talk about anything level specific. I'm just going to talk about stuff you will see in almost every level and what you need to know to get through this game without dying over and over. So let's get started here. Right off the bat with this screen, you may notice a very important thing right here. Matchmaking is not a thing in the game yet. It will become a thing eventually, but for right now you have to go through the Discord. Now most people in this day and age have Discord, so this shouldn't be too big of an issue. If you don't though, then you should definitely get it because it is very easy to learn and it can help you out. Click on the button here and it will take you to the GTFO Discord. Here on the GTFO Discord, just go down to the looking for groups section. You can either go for your own country or beginners. Just simply type a message like new to the game, looking to learn, need people to play with, something like that. Anything really, and you will find people, or you'll find people to teach you. I do highly recommend you play with people on the Discord. This game is not meant to be played solo or duo, or heck, not even really trio. It is built around 4 players. Eventually it will have layered difficulty, but as of right now for Rundown 3, There is no layered difficulty. Make your life easier and play with more people. But that's all I need to talk about right off the bat. So, let's get into the game here. Alrighty, so now you've connected to the rundown. The rundown will change every once in a while, so this guide will focus more on stuff that will probably be across every single guide, or every single rundown. However, this is being made during Rundown 3, so if you're watching this on a future rundown, do keep in mind that everything I say is not going to be up to date. But I will probably post videos in the future with the newer rundowns if stuff does change. But for here, how you're going to want to start is you'll notice that there are tiers of levels. The further you go down, the more difficult it gets, but you won't be able to access certain levels right off the bat. As a newer player, you have access to only the A tier. Once you complete all of these, you have access to B, and then so forth. However, if you join another person's lobby, it is up to the host. If the host is somebody who's beaten the entire game, but he plays with 3 people who just purchased it, the host could take them down to the bottom level. It's only what the host has completed, so you don't have to worry too much about not complete stuff, or if you do want to skip, you can. But obviously, we're going to talk about the basics, so we should start with A1. Going into it, all you have to do is simply click on it and you'll get some information here that'll tell you what you're going to be doing, with some text down here that normally can give you a little bit of a tip or a hint as to what you're going to see, but then you can host your lobby. Hosting your lobby is going to bring you to this screen. This is where all of your basics are. In the top right, you could see here, share lobby ID. This is how this game works with matchmaking, since there is no matchmaking. All you have to do is click this button right here, and this will copy your lobby ID to your clipboard. Then you could go to your GTFO Discord, go to a looking for group session, and just post that in the chat. So for example, if I wanted to find a group for A1, I would type something like this on screen. Looking for 3 members for A1, then you could post the code there, or you don't have to, and then you could just go into one of the rooms and say, I'm in room 90 or something like that. And then if you're joining somebody, all you have to do is copy that. Just highlight it, hit Control-C, copies it to your clipboard, click back in the game, and a button right around here will appear. You just click this and it'll connect you to their lobby. Alrighty, so now that you've got your lobby full, obviously you need to choose your loadout for the level. When it comes to your 2 weapons, it doesn't really matter too much. It's more about preference of what you want to take and what you feel comfortable with. I would just recommend to newer players, experiment. Probably every run, try to take a new weapon. Start from the top and just go down and experiment with them until you find ones that you enjoy or you think you're good with. They have their pros and cons, so none of them are really superior to others in most cases. The pistol, for example, good rate of fire, it has lower range than the other type of guns, and it has very high ammo capacity. The trade-off though is the fact that its damage is pretty low. If you're hitting body shots with the pistol, it takes quite a few rounds to kill enemies, but if you hit headshots, you can kill them much quicker. So if you're confident with headshots, this might be a good gun for you. On the other hand, the bullpup rifle is fully automatic, high fire rate, has pretty decent range, and it's a bit of a longer reload and its damage isn't super high, but it is very easy to chew through multiple enemies with this. But it's also very easy to chew through your ammo. The one thing I should mention though is the rundown specific weapons. These are only going to be here for rundown 3. Once rundown 4 comes around, these are going to disappear and be replaced with new weapons. Anything that doesn't say rundown specific though will stay, however it might change slightly. But experiment. The same thing can be said about your special weapons. These are going to have lower ammo capacities compared to your main weapons, but they will do a whole lot more damage. This you could take pretty much whatever you want, but my recommendation would be careful of these 2 weapons right here. The sniper and the hell rifle both have very high damage, but their ammo capacity is very, very low. I believe the sniper rifle only has 12 total shots at 100% ammo. So you could take these, but I would highly recommend only one person on your team have one of these if you're going to have one of them at all. If you take 2 of these, you may notice that it's going to be harder to kill giant swarms of enemies because, well, it's overkill. Especially with the sniper. There's no penetration on the sniper, so if you hit one enemy, all that extra damage isn't going to go anywhere. Hell rifle is a bit different where you can pierce, but you need to line up your shots to make sure that they're effective. But again, experiment and see what you like. Your tool is where stuff really does change though. Each one of these have their own benefits, and they all have uses in almost every level. Your seafoam launcher. You can spray this over doors that you can open and close to barricade them, which could be very useful for alarm doors, which I'll get into later, and it could buy you a lot of time. You can also spray it on the floor to slow down enemies when they step into it, or you can even apply it directly to an enemy to freeze it in place. But seafoam launcher is pretty useful. Although I would say you're only going to have one person taken on your team and you never really need 2 of these. The bio tracker is also a pretty good tool. With this, you have a monitor in front of you on the bio tracker and enemies will appear as white dots. If they're aggravated though and they're moving around, they will appear as red dots, and then you can hold down left click to ping them. This could be very useful for when you have a ton of enemies coming at you and you want to know where they are, or if you're in really dark or foggy levels and you want to know where enemies are because you can't really rely on sight. The mine deployer does a lot of damage. You place a mine down to a wall, and if an enemy steps in front of it, it will blow up. You can pick these up, so if you place them down they don't get used, you can always bring them back with you, and it is good for clearing out large groups of enemies. The downside with this though is 1 enemy could set it off, or 10 enemies could set it off. Really, if you have wide open levels and there aren't many doors that you can easily funnel enemies through, the mine deployer isn't going to be doing that much work. But it is still a good tool. It's the same thing with the seafoam and the bio tracker though. I would only say you need 1 of these on your team, and you should never have more than 1 unless if you're just messing around and trying to experiment and have fun. The burst sentry and the shotgun sentry are the most important tools of them all to a lot of people. These are what you use to kill a ton of enemies and have them deal with them while you focus on other stuff and you don't have to focus on shooting as much. When doing certain missions, you're going to have to barricade doors, and then you can have your sentries on the outside taking care of them while you're on the inside staying safe for a little bit. The burst sentry has longer range but doesn't do as much damage. But this is very useful if you have to defend a long tunnel. That way the burst sentry can just shoot all the way down because the damage drop off is not that much. However, it's more meant to weaken enemies than it is to kill them. The shotgun sentry is very good when it's in close quarters. It can kill enemies very quickly and has very high damage output, but the damage drop off is pretty significant the further the enemy is away from it. So usually you want to place these up against doors, that way it shoots enemies as they try to break them down. So take what you want. Shotgun sentry will help you out more often than the burst, but the burst can also be pretty useful if you find a good way to place it. Finally, your melee. There is no difference. This is purely cosmetic. Just take whatever you want, and eventually you'll probably join a clan. Not an actual clan, but everybody seems to have a favorite melee weapon. So choose what you like, and that's about it. And that's all there is for the weapons. Once you have all of your tools and weapons set up, you're ready to go down into the level. So here we are dropping into a level. Every time you drop into a level, you're going to notice your objective is going to be here in the top left, as you can see in just a few seconds. There it is. They also say it on the left side of your screen when you load in, but this is going to be your objective, so every level will be a little bit different, and whenever you need information of what you're going to do, you can see it up there in the top left. The top middle of your screen, you can see the compass. This is just to help you understand directions a little bit better. Nothing I really need to say about this. And then top right is going to be the information about your weapons, how much ammunition is in every single one of them, how many reserve shots you have, and how much of your tool you have. You may also notice those 2 tiny bars, which is where you will hold consumables. That first one is where refill kits would go, so med packs, ammo packs, tool refill, and stuff like that. And the one underneath is where stuff like glow sticks, lock mounters, C-foam grenades, and other things go. You can hold one of each of them, but that's it. You can't hold any more at a time, so when you find resource packs, use them, but try not to waste them. Opening up your map, which will either be tab by default or whatever you remap it to, you'll see everybody's information over here on the right side of your screen. This information is almost always accurate. I have had a few runs where it's slightly off, but for the most part, you can rely on this. The reason why this is important is understanding what everybody is looking at stat-wise. When you find resources, most of the time you're going to want to use them. However, you don't want to overcap people. Med packs will always give 20% health, and ammo packs will usually give about 20% to your primary weapon and 30% to your secondary weapon. These are average numbers. Some weapons will give a little bit more and some will give a little bit less, but that's what you should remember is 20 for the primary, 30 for your secondary. And then finally, tool refill kits will always give you 20% to your tool. If you have a bio tracker, you don't need any tool refills, but anything else you'll get 20%. So dish out the resources, but try not to overcap people just because you want to save what you have. Getting into the actual mechanics of the game, this is a stealth game. You do not want to see enemies like those over there and just immediately start shooting them, because doing so will waste a lot of ammunition and you will run low before you even get halfway through the level. How you want to do stuff is sneak around. My advice to you is make sure you go into your options, go to gameplay, and toggle your crouch, because you will be crouching a lot in this game. Once you've crouched, you're not detected as easily. You can see the two enemies over there. When they move like that, well, enemies have different detection stages. They have the basic one where they're not moving, like the guy right there and now him, they're not doing anything. This means it's safe to move around. They're not listening for you, so you can move freely. However, you want to be careful. You cannot sprint. If you were to sprint near enemies, it would immediately set them off. How you want to deal with them is you want to crouch and then sneak up to them when they're not glowing. If they're not glowing, they're not really listening for you and you can move around freely. However, the closer you get to enemies, the more likely they are to start throbbing like this. This means they're listening to you and you should stop moving. They also react to your light, so make sure your light is not shined on them, because they will react to that too. There's the second stage of alert. Well, this is the second stage right there. The third stage is this. When they throb like that. If an enemy starts throbbing, that means they've detected you're there, but they're not going to come after you yet. Stop all movement and make sure your light is off. If you move at all during that stage, they will wake up and come after you. So, how do you deal with enemies like this? The best way to do it is sneak up to them. The main reason I say crouch is you'll notice that they immediately woke up when I stand up. Standing up and crouching count as movement. If I were to walk around, that will immediately make them go to the second stage of alertness. This is why you want to be crouching most of the time. Walking around will make them detect you much faster. But all you're going to want to do is walk up to one and hit it with a fully charged melee. You can see your reticle gets smaller when you look at enemies. That means you're in range to hit them. If it doesn't grow smaller, this means you won't quite hit. All you have to do is hold down left click and you'll see your reticle start charging up like this. You cannot hold this forever and eventually it will auto swing. What you want to do is get close to an enemy and then charge up your melee all the way and hit them in the head or anywhere in the body. The head is better because it will do more damage. Now, you have to be careful about this. If I was to hit one of these enemies, it will alert the other one. Enemies around you can detect it. So if an enemy was standing over there and I was to kill one of these two while that enemy right there was glowing, he would detect it. However, if that enemy over there was not glowing, he wouldn't detect it. So you can kill enemies And the best way to do this is to just wait and make sure every enemy around you is not glowing, or trigger the enemies by flashing them with your light to make sure they start glowing. However, if enemies are this close, it does not matter. Even if this guy's not glowing and I kill this one, he will wake up. In situations like this, you want to have one person at each enemy. So I would take this guy out, and my partner would take out this guy. However, I'm playing alone, so I'm going to have to deal with this by myself. But simply, fully charge melee, and then just start meleeing the other dude until he falls over dead. If you see a red hit marker, that means you did basic damage and you most likely did not kill the enemy. However, if you get an orange hit marker, that means the enemy is dead. This is not foolproof though. Sometimes, as you saw with him, you may get a red hit marker when you kill the enemy. But once they stop moving like that, they're dead and you don't have to worry about it. Moving on to the next thing, this is what you want to learn about here, are terminals. Terminals are very important and can save you a lot of time in this game. If you walk up to one and access it, you can type in commands, and you'll see some basic commands appear. The three main ones you want to pay attention to are query, list, and ping. You can pause the video here if you want to see the details about them, but a short summary of all of them is query is to find out where an object is, what zone it's in. So, for example, if we look in the top left, we could see we're trying to find NCR_AO2. So, we would type in query space NCR_AO2, hit enter, and give it a few seconds, and it will tell you what zone it's in, and it's in zone 255. We can see by that sign over there that we're in 250. The number is what zone you're in, the letter is the specific room. Usually rooms will be doorways, so this entire room here is B, and you can see through here, that room is going to be C. So now we know we need to get to zone 255. But what about the other two commands? Well, we're in zone 250. So something we could do is the list command. This is a command that could show you what items are in the zone you're in, and you could do this with any zone anywhere. So if I was to list a zone 250, it'll tell me everything in it. You can see there are doors, a security door, an ammo pack, med pack, tool refill, and a terminal. Those ammo packs and med packs can be in the lockers or the boxes. But not all boxes or lockers will have refills in them. If it does appear on this list, that means there is a refill. If you see, let's say there are 5 boxes but only 2 refills, then that means those 3 other boxes will probably have stuff like glow sticks, seafoam grenades, and stuff like that. So you do want to make sure you go for everything. But let's take a look at that ammo pack. We know that ammo pack is in this zone, but we don't know where it is. That's where the third command comes in handy, the ping command. If you ping a specific item, it will give you a marker of where it is. However, this only works if the item is in the same zone as the terminal. So I can't go pinging stuff in zone 251 from the zone 250 terminal. Instead, I'd have to find a terminal in 251. But because we listed zone 250, we know the ammo pack is in here, and therefore I can ping it. Ping it, and then get out of the terminal but stay near it. You'll hear that sound and you'll see the terminal ping. It only lasts for a few seconds, but that lets you know it's back here. So now, you can run over here and you'll see this box. These boxes are where resources will be, or if you see a orange locker. Opening it up, we could see that the ammo pack we pinged was in here, so now we could pick this up. And that's all you really need to know about terminals, is querying, listing, and pinging. If you know the specific name of an item, you can query it to find the zone. You can list an entire zone if you don't know what zone an item's in, or if you have 2 zones you have to go down, you could list both zones to see which one probably has the item you need. And once you're in a zone, you can ping to find the specific items that are in that zone. Like I said earlier, this game is a lot about stealth, but obviously there are things to try to make it so you can't. You may notice that this box has a padlock on it. There are a few ways of getting it off. 1, you could shoot it with a gun. 2, if you have lock melters, you can use it to get rid of the lock, or you could just do a fully charged melee swing to break it off. That makes noise though. If you were to do that and an enemy was standing right about here, that enemy would immediately get aggravated and attack you. So, you want to make sure you don't do that near other enemies. At the same time, they can be on doors. This door doesn't have any, but a lock could appear on this door that you would also have to hit off. If you see something like that, make sure there are no enemies around you before you hit it, because hitting one in a room full of enemies can lead you to a swift demise. The other type of lock you may see, besides the physical metal padlocks that you have to either break off or shoot off, would be the one over here. This is a hack lock, and just like the other metal padlock, this can appear on doorways and resource boxes. In order to do this, you have to just play a little bit of a hacking minigame. Your thing is going to constantly go left and right across the screen. You just have to click when it's in the orange. If you fail, it'll make a sound like this. That sound will make noise just like the metal padlock, and it will alert nearby enemies. So try not to hack a box unless if you know you're free. You have to do this 3 times successfully, and every time it gets smaller. If you fail, you go back to the previous wave and you have to keep starting over. Just take your time, let it pass through, and it's not too difficult. Once you do the 3rd one, the locker will open, or the door, and you have access to whatever is inside of it. Next on our list, let's talk about security doors like this one right here. Whenever you see a security door, this will lead you to a new zone. So right now, we are in zone 250, as you can see on the map right here. This door will lead us to zone 251, but it also tells us what zones it's connected to. So through 251, we can get to 252, 53, and 54. This doesn't mean that you go into 252 and then you go to 53 and then 54. It means that those zones are connected directly to this one. So inside of this zone, you'll find the doorway for all 3 of those. This doesn't always mean you'll be going to all 3 though. When you walk up to a door like this, you want to read what it says. If it says something like this, start security scan sequence, this is a good door. All you have to do is hold E on it and have your entire team stand in this circle. Once everybody on your team is standing in it, the percentage will go up like it is right now, and the door will unlock. Then you could just walk up to it and open it. However, there are different types of doors, and not all of them are as simple as that. For example, if we were to go over here, you would see that this door is going to be a bit different. This one leads to zone 254 and has connection to 255. However, door is locked and you'll need a key yellow 901 to get into it. These are keycard doors. These could be just basic security scans, or they could also be alarm doors. In order to get into this one, you have to go and find that keycard so you can come back with it. But this is where the terminal comes in handy again. This is key yellow 901. If I walk to the terminal, you could then query key underscore yellow underscore 901, and then it will tell you what zone it's in. And we can see right here it's in zone 253. So we have to go to that zone. Well, right there we see another basic door, and these basic doors have information on them as well. This one says the area. This will tell you the letter of the area, which is good because if you ping an item or query if you ping a specific item, like a med pack, it will tell you what letter zone it's in, which this can help you for zones that have all the way down to F, G, or even H as areas. And it also tells us it leads to 252 and 253, which means somewhere inside this room, we'll find the security door to those zones. But of course, doesn't mean we get to walk around freely. When you see a large group of enemies like this, just remember what I taught you earlier and make sure enemies are not flashing nearby. This one right there is probably the only one, so once I wait for him to turn off, I can go for the kill. Now, I'm good. So I just have to start moving throughout the room and killing enemies off one by one. And I'll see you once this room is cleared. Now that the room's been cleared out, we can look around freely for resources and collect what we want. You're always going to want to do this once you clear out a room. But we have gotten everything. So as we can see, there's a security door here, and there's a security door right over there. Now, we only need to go to one of those to get our key. And we saw from earlier on the terminal, we need to go to zone 250. So let's head over to zone 250, or 253, sorry. Now, with this one, we have another type of security door. This is start security scan sequence. However, there's an alarm detected. Alarm doors are a bit more difficult, but they're very common to see in this game. When you throw that switch, a full team scan will appear at the base of the door, just like it normally would. However, there's going to be an alarm going off in the background. This alarm will cause enemies to spawn in rooms near you, and they'll come flocking to you to try to get to you. You have to defend against the waves of enemies while taking care of the scans. While defending, a small white line will come out from the door and move a little bit, and then it'll split off into 4 smaller scans. All you have to do is make sure you stand in each scan until they hit 100%. You don't have to be standing in all 4 of them at the same time, you just have to be standing in them and it'll move up, hit 100, and after it hits 100 the circle will disappear. There may be multiple waves of this, or there may just be 1 or 2. You have to keep going until a message at the top of your screen appears saying that the door has been unlocked. But until then, the scan will not finish. Once the scan's finished though, clean off the rest of the enemies that are going to be coming to you until the battle music goes away, which signifies there are no more enemies, and then you can proceed through the door. But of course, you're going to want to set up. So let's talk about how you want to set up for doors depending on what tool type you have. The Seafoam Launcher. The description of this says it can barricade doors. Of course, that's not everything it can do. It has a few options. You could spray some of it on the floor to slow enemies and even freeze them if they touch enough of it. How you do this is you just aim with it and hold down left click. You'll see that circle charging up. You can hold this charge indefinitely, and if you want to cancel it, just swap to a different slot. But if you spray it on the floor, move it around. If I was to just stand here and shoot there, you notice that it's a pretty confined area where all this is. However, if I charge it up and then move my mouse, you can see it spreads out quite a bit more. This is better to do when you have wide open areas. However, if you have a door like this, you're not actually going to be putting it on the floor. You can shut the door and seafoam the door itself. This requires 1 full charge from the Seafoam Launcher in order to do, which will take up about 12%, or 12 of the actual number. The door is now seafoamed, which means it's reinforced, so enemies will have a harder time breaking through this door because of this. This will give you extra time to do the scans and take care of what you need to in cases like this. And it's a lot more effective than putting it down on the floor. Now, let's say you seafoam a door and the enemies don't actually bust it down all the way. You could just break it open yourself with a hammer. Just charge up and hit it, and you'll notice that a little bit of it sort of disappeared. Hit it again, it's starting to fade off, and you can see it's starting to disappear. It's going to take quite a few melee swings from a player to actually bust it off, but as you can see, it's all off completely. However, sometimes the door will not open because one tiny glob stays behind. If this does happen, you can just bust the door all the way down. Another thing you can do though is re-seafoam it. Let's say you're defending and you have a very long scan you have to defend with, and the enemies break down all the seafoam on the door. Your person with the Seafoam Launcher can come back and re-seafoam the door again. So you can apply it over and over to the door. Keep in mind, doors have an actual HP bar. So if an enemy brings off the seafoam and they take away 50% of the door's HP and then you re-seafoam it, when that seafoam gets busted off again, the door will still have that 50% HP, which means it'll break quickly. So if you want to reapply seafoam, you should already have the charge set, so when all the seafoam falls off, as you can see here, when it looks like this, then you would want to spray more on it. If you wait too long, then you may end up spraying the door as it gets busted down. Because keep in mind, it doesn't completely seafoam the door right off the bat. It has to do the animation. So make sure you charge it up early. Otherwise, enemies may end up breaking through the door and getting through. And this is what a door is going to look like if it's busted open. If it's busted like this, you cannot apply seafoam anymore, and the best you can do now is put your seafoam on the floor, which can be used to slow enemies down if they walk through it. And you would want to apply something like that. But this is the key importance of the seafoam launcher. You can also apply this directly to enemies. If you do, I suggest doing a simple click, click, and then shoot. Do a bare minimum charge, that way you're not doing a full blast, because it only takes about 2 or 3 globs of seafoam to actually freeze an enemy in place. The enemy will remain frozen for a few seconds, but that's it, so use that time wisely. But this can be useful if there's a bunch of enemies next to each other and you don't have enough people to deal with all of them, and you don't want to set off the room. You can seafoam the ones you're not able to kill, and then quickly kill the other ones so they don't get aggroed. If you seafoam an enemy, it will not wake up afterwards. It will just bust out of it and then stay asleep. So use that time effectively. But that's all there really is to teach about the seafoam launcher. The next tool that we're going to talk about is the BioTracker. The BioTracker does not actually have any tool. As you can see in the top right, it's infinite. But on this little monitor, you can see an enemy. That enemy is the white dot over there, which, if we walk towards it, you'll be able to see is him standing right there. Right now we're about 10 meters away from him, so you can see how far about 10 meters is. He will appear as a white dot, and that's it. So this is useful especially for dark rooms where you can't see as well, so you'll be able to see where an enemy is. However, there's another thing you can actually do with the BioTracker. If I was to set off this enemy, you'll see he appears as a red dot, and you can hold down left click to trigger it. This will place that marker above his head right there, as you can see. This will make it so that you can see enemies a bit easier when they come in as swarm. And you can re-ping every few seconds, but after you ping, there will be a cooldown that you have to wait. But this makes it much easier to actually see enemies and deal with them. The ping may stick around a little bit after they die, and it may even get stuck on your screen, but if that's the case, you don't have to worry about it, it will vanish. Through here, we can see there are no enemies though, so we know it's safe to walk around and be free. But that's all there really is to the BioTracker. You're able to see enemies through doors or anything. As you could have seen there, we could see there are a lot of enemies up there. So we know that there's going to be quite a few on the other side of this door, and you can ping them, but only when they're moving. As you can see, I'm holding down left click, and the ping isn't working, saying there's no moving target found. So, if you're able to ping an enemy, it means it's moving, and that's it. That's all there is to teach about the BioTracker. Next, we have the Mine Deployer. This is a very nice tool. You can use it to place down mines. All you have to do is get close to a surface and look for your reticle to appear and turn green, then you just hold down E to place your trip mine. You're not able to place it on all surfaces, but for the most part, you can place them almost anywhere as long as it's flat and it has enough room. Now, how you want to position these is you want to be a little bit strategic. One enemy could set off your mine, or 10 of them could, so you want to place them in good positions. A good example of a good position would be here on doors. Here, placing it like this on the door will make it so when enemies come through, it will kill them. So this is a great position to put them in. Normally you just want to put one, because if you put another one, then it might be too much. However, you could place one a bit higher. The small one can make it so that it will blow up any small guys who come through, while that top one will only blow up the bigger ones who walk through, in case you want to reserve one for them. You can also place these on the floor, but obviously it's not as effective due to the fact that they would have to walk over it instead of walking through that line to get aggroed or to set it off. Mines can go off too if you shoot at them, and obviously if you place them underneath an enemy's feet, it will blow up immediately and take you with it. You can pick them back up though. Just walk up to them, hold down E, and you can pick it up. In a case like this, we could place the mines there. Then if we move forward, we can see there's an enemy here. Now this enemy is a little bit difficult to deal with by ourselves, so probably what we should do is shoot it and aggravate it. Then we run back through here and just shut the door behind us. That enemy will come after us and eventually will bust down that door, as you can see there. Let's step back a bit to make sure it paths towards us. As you can see, it walks through, set off our mine, and now we could deal with it a bit easier. Mines do a pretty decent amount of damage, so place them in good positions. If you were to place one out in the open like this, then only one enemy could run through this and set it off. If you place it on doors like that though, then more enemies will get to that door and it'll buy you some time before they step into it and blow it up. And this is a good way to deal with it. Same thing with alarm doors. If this was an alarm door right here, for example, instead of placing it like we did there, we could place it right here. Then we could shut the door. Obviously this is busted open, so I can't show that, but if we shut the door here, then all the enemies would clump up on this side as they're trying to break through at the same time, and all of them would be standing right about here. Then one enemy would step forward, hit that trip mine, and it would blow up pretty much all of them. So you can use these to help out as a last defense against alarm doors. But that's all there is to the mine deployer. Next, we have the burst sentry, one of the two sentries. This one isn't as preferred when it comes to a lot of people, but it still has its strengths. With any type of sentry, you just have to look at the ground and place it by holding down E. This will scan the area in front of it, and if it sees an enemy, it will start shooting at it. These are good in longer corridors just because the burst sentry isn't really meant to kill enemies, more so to weaken them. So now let's place it right here, and this will detect the enemy in front of it, and it will start to shoot at it. As you can see, it's doing a 3-round burst, but a lot of enemies can still get past it just like that and come straight for you. The burst sentry is not meant to really kill enemies. It can do damage, and yes, it can't kill them, but it's more so meant to weaken them as they come for you. However, if you have long corridor open maps, they are useful because they do decent damage from afar. They don't have much damage drop off, so they can deal with enemies quite effectively, even over longer distances. But do keep in mind that these will not kill enemies very effectively. The other place you can put them is up ahead. So the other question you might have for the burst sentry is how to set these up for alarm doors, or when you have to defend an area. Because it shoots in a 3-round burst, you don't want to place it like this, because what will happen is it will shoot at the enemy, and it may kill the enemy and then hit the door and damage the door as well. With the burst sentry, you want to try to place it parallel with the door like this. What this will make it do is it will shoot across, and let's say there's an enemy here, 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 and here. It will shoot the first one, and then if the first or second bullet in its 3-round burst kills it, it will then shoot and it will hit the next enemy, and the bullets won't be wasted as much. Which is valuable because burst sentries go through a lot of ammo quickly just due to the fact that they don't kill enemies. They do try to shoot in a straight line, so try to aim them a little bit for the head if you can. But just place it like this so it shoots across the door, kills enemies a little bit more effectively, and it doesn't actually hit the door itself. But other than that, that's all there really is to teach about the burst sentry. And finally, we have the shotgun sentry, which is considered probably the most valuable of all the tools. This is what you're gonna want to have more of on your team, just because these are the best when it comes to defending. Burst sentries are okay, but as I said earlier, for the amount of ammo they spend to kill a basic enemy, they just aren't really that good compared to the shotgun sentry. With these, you're going to want to position them sort of like this when it looks at a door. The damage drop off on the shotgun sentries is fairly significant once it goes beyond a few meters. So the closer the enemy is to the shotgun turret, the more damage it's going to do. You want to face it sort of like this towards a door. That way when enemies walk in front of it, it will shoot them from behind as they're banging on it, and from this distance it should one-shot most, if not all, enemies as they're trying to go for it. This will give you a lot of time to deal with security doors. They don't have nearly as many rounds in them as you may be able to notice, their maximum being only 42, but that is still a lot of damage that they can do. These are okay for defending as well. If you screw up a room, you can always run away and place it at a choke point, but usually you want to place it on the side of a door that enemies are going to be coming from while you're on the other side defending. But that's all there is to really talk about with the shotgun sentry. Besides having to deal with enemies in darkness, another thing you'll commonly have to deal with in levels is fog. Fog can very easily hide enemies in it that you might not see until you're too close, and it can limit your vision. But that's not all you have to worry about fog. In some levels you might notice sort of white wispy fog, which is pretty fine if you walk in. However, this fog you can see is a bit darker and greener. You won't see it too much in this rundown, but infectious fog is fairly common. What does infectious fog do, however? If you let it get to head height, then you'll get infection. So if I was to crouch here, you may notice above my HP bar that a new bar is appearing. And there, when it hit 10%, it shows you what that's infection. Infection is a negative health bar. It caps out what your max HP is. However, infection will only cap out your HP when you hit 10%. If you're 9% or below, it won't make you lose health. But as you can see, I'm at 18% infection, so it's slowly draining my health away. This will keep going until my total infection and health equal 100. So try to not get too much infection. You can get rid of it with disinfectant packs, which are another consumable you could find around maps that have infectious fog in them, but it's best to try to avoid it. Now, like I said, it is a head height thing, so if it is very tall, you might be able to jump onto stuff like this to avoid it, or you can simply just keep jumping to get above it. But in this case here, you can simply walk and you don't have to worry about it. But do try your best to avoid infection, just because if you have a lot of medkits but no disinfectant packs, those medkits are useless. So let's get into the different types of enemies. There are going to be 5 different enemies that you will be seeing on almost every single level, no matter what. The first one here being the Striker. These guys are pretty common, and they're the ones you'll see the most in the game. They have the mouth for the head with all the teeth, so they're pretty distinguishable compared to the other ones. These enemies like to charge at you and go somewhat near you, and then they'll stop, they'll glow red, and then a tongue will come out of their head and hit you, dealing a small percentage of damage. These enemies are not too difficult to deal with. If you want to deal with them silently, a fully charged melee hit anywhere will kill them, whether it be legs, stomach, back, or head, just like that, and that's all there is to it. As when it comes to shooting them, just try to keep your distance a little bit and shoot at their head. You'll see them in large groups like this, and by themselves they're not too deadly, but with a lot of other people near them, they can be pretty devastating to deal with. The next type of basic enemy you'll see is here, the Shooter. These have black orbs all over their heads, unlike the Strikers that have the mouth for the head. They do not melee you whatsoever. They will keep a little bit of a distance from you, and if you approach them, they will try to walk away from you, and their head will glow and they will shoot a white projectile at you. This white projectile can home in on you, but it's pretty easy to sidestep. Same thing with the Striker though. They have about the same amount of HP, so you can do a fully charged melee hit to kill them silently, although I would recommend aiming for the head. People have discovered that if you do a fully charged melee hit to the back or even the chest, it sometimes will not kill. Sometimes it does, but sometimes it won't. So to play it safe, make sure you do a fully charged melee hit to the head to ensure they die quickly. But when it comes to Strikers, they're not considered as deadly due to the fact that they don't melee you, it's fairly easy to dodge their projectiles and they do less damage. But even then, don't underestimate them if they're in a large swarm. On to our next enemy, we have the big strikers. Very similar to the small strikers, they have mouths for heads, and they're much, much bigger. These guys hit hard. You do not want to let them melee you. If they punch you, they will deal about 40% of your HP, and they do have a tongue attack as well that does about 24% of your HP. These guys can very quickly kill you, especially with their left hook, right hook combo that could do 80% of your HP within about 1 second. To deal with them silently, you need to have teamwork. You either need 3 fully charged hits to their back to kill, or 4 fully charged hits anywhere on the body. So, group your team near him without touching him, and when you're all within range, do a simple countdown, like just say charge now, everybody starts charging, then have one person just say 3, 2, 1, hit, or anything like that. Practice it a little bit with your friends, make sure you time it properly, and then that's the best way to deal with them. You could also go loud with them, but as you can see in this room, there's the 3 right there, and there's probably another 3 or 4 in this room that you can't see due to the fog. Taking care of them silently is still the best option. However, it is a bit more dangerous because if one of you mistimes your swing or doesn't hit, he could immediately backhand all of you. So do try to be careful around them and don't mess it up. But like I said, 3 fully charged hits to the back or 4 fully charged hits anywhere will do the job and kill them. If you liked the big striker, then you'll probably enjoy the big shooter, or you'll hate it just as much. Just like with the small shooters, they have the orbs all over their body, and they actually shine much brighter red than the other enemies, so it's pretty easy to see them even in the dark. These enemies have a little bit more HP than big strikers do. In order to kill them, you need 4 fully charged melee hits anywhere. 3 fully charged melee hits to the back is not going to be enough to kill them, but 4 anywhere should be enough to kill. So, not too difficult in that regards, just means you need more people on your team. As to how they attack, they're pretty similar to the shooter of they cannot melee you. But instead of shooting 1 projectile at you, they will shoot 3 projectiles at you in quick succession, and these are much brighter. Even then, it's still not too difficult to dodge them, and they're not too bad to deal with. Just make sure your team is coordinated when trying to silently take them down, and just be careful of the projectiles when they shoot them at you. Other than that, you've got nothing to worry when it comes to these guys. And finally, we're going to talk about the 5th enemy that you'll see pretty much every single level. And that is the Scout. Did you hear that tentacle noise? Scouts are annoying enemies. They're predetermined spawns. They're not like striker shooters or big strikers and big shooters that can spawn in any room on pretty much any stage. You see them right there. These guys can only spawn in specific rooms, and only on those specific rooms. It's not guaranteed it will always spawn there, but how it usually works is a level has a predetermined amount of scouts that can be in it. For example, this one can only have 1 or 2, but it's always going to be in the room that you need the key card in. So it's a guaranteed run-in no matter what. You'll have some levels that you may play multiple times, and you'll notice that there is a scout in a room once, but then there's no scout in that same room the next time. That probably just means it spawned in a different room, especially on levels where there are different rooms you can go to for an objective. How the scout works though. He likes to walk around. He's the only enemy in this game that naturally walks around. And you want to be careful. He does that every little bit. If one of those tentacles touches you, it sets him off. His mechanics are pretty similar to other ones, only a little different. Running will make him extend immediately. Flashing your light on him will make him extend immediately, but it won't fully trigger him. The only things that trigger him are other enemies getting triggered and screaming, you shooting a gun, or you bumping into him or trying to melee him but you don't actually kill him. If he does scream and gets set off, his body will turn blue and he'll become invincible while he's doing his screaming animation. Once his screaming animation is done though, then every enemy in the room you're currently in will awaken, and every enemy in the room you're in will awaken. And then he'll spawn a wave of about 15 to 25 enemies a few rooms behind you that will immediately aggro and come after you. Setting off a scout basically means you have to deal not only with the room you just ticked off, but a new wave of enemies coming for you, which can very easily destroy you because you're forced to get into a giant gunfight, especially if he's in a room with about 30 or so enemies and you did not clear out that room before you got him. There are many different ways to handle a scout. One way is to clear out the entire room like I am before you attempt to go for him. That way if you do accidentally screw up, the only thing you have to worry about is the wave he spawns in, and not the room itself. You could also just try to melee him if you see the opportunity. However, you need to be careful with trying to melee him. The only way to kill a scout with a melee is if it's a fully charged hit to the head, and it has to be the head. Front or back does not matter, but anywhere else on his body, and it does not count, and it will not kill him. You could follow him and try to be around corners when he does the tentacle thing, and then just go for it when you see an opportunity, or you can try to shoot him. There are a few guns in the game that can one-tap him, and some of them, just to be specific, are the sniper, the hell rifle, the revolver, and the basic shotgun. I believe there are some other guns, but I have not done more testing on this quite yet. But the best way is to just kill it silently with melee if you can. But obviously, circumstances won't always allow you to do that. And that is everything for this guide video. That's almost an hour long at this point, isn't it? Geez, there really was a lot to talk about, but I feel like it was necessary. This is a very fun, but also very difficult game, and there's a lot that you need to learn. And this game doesn't really teach you anything, it just sort of throws you into the deep end of the pool. So I'm hoping that my video taught you guys some new things, and I'm hoping that this will make it easier for you to play the game so you can have more enjoyment out of it without dying over and over just because you don't understand something. There is a lot of stuff I did not mention in this video, and that's just purely because I wanted to keep this to the basics and just the bare necessities people need to learn for the most part. I will be doing another video in the near future that's more advanced tips, which I'm hoping will be a bit shorter than this video. We're gonna have to see, it depends on how many advanced tips I can think of when it comes to that point. But I hope that this video taught you some stuff. If it taught you some new things and it helped you out, then leave a like, let me know, and write in the comments telling me what you enjoyed about the video and what you learned. Or if you're a more experienced player and you're watching this and you think there's something that new players should definitely know and I did not mention in this video, then leave a comment down below. I'll either mention it in the next video or I'll just leave it there, probably pin it so other people can see that comment. But I did do this so that people could learn this game and have an easier time playing it because I do want to see the community grow, and having a very difficult game with no tutorial definitely will ward off quite a few people. But that's all I've got for you guys today. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope that I've helped you learn the game and make it a bit easier to get started on your GTFO journey. But that's everything I've got for you, so I will see you all in the next video.